Okay, so today I want to talk about this article from Civil Beat. So, this slush fund. So, when I was first in the city council meeting on May 1st, I'll admit this sort of slipped past me. I didn't really know what they were talking about. But upon rewatching the city council meeting, it was pretty absurd that they were allowing this to happen or that they were trying to pull this. So, I will play that city council meeting at 1.5 times speed.
And the rising cost of living. The council's responsibility is not to rubber stamp a budget, but to make sure the final budget reflects the real needs of residents and what government can deliver, which is transparent, accountable, and intentional.
Ironic, isn't it?
Thank you very much, members.
So ironic.
I now call upon Director Andy Kawano from the Department of Budget and Fiscal Services to provide brief opening remarks on behalf of the administration. Actually, we'd like to welcome to the chamber Managing Director Formby.
Thank you, Budget Chair Okimoto, Council Chair Waters, Vice Chair Tapola, and committee members, council members, Mike Formby, Managing Director. First, I do want to thank the council and the staff for all the work on the budget. Today, we're here to talk about the proposed amendments for a CD2. We do have some concerns, and I wanted to basically, at a very high level, discuss some of the concerns that we have with the CD2.
Mm-hmm.
More specifically, I'm looking at Section 13, the proposed new subsection C, and the language of that.
Subsection C, section 13. What the fuck are they talking about? You see how confusing it is to try to understand anything that's going on in city council when it's not your job? Oh my god. Okay, so CC is council communication. CR is council resolution. Bill, we know what bill means. Mayor's memo, I assume is MM. Department something. Okay. All right. What did he say he was looking at?
High level, discuss some of the concerns that we have with the CD2. More specifically, I'm looking at Section 13, the proposed new subsection C, and the language of that.
CD2 subsection 13. You see, look at this. It says CD1. The entire day that I was at city council, it said CD1 the entire time, and all they were talking about was CD2. What am I looking at? See, I don't know where it is.
And that subsection is where the council decided to pull provisional funds and to put them into one large, really an omnibus provisional, I think totaling $41 million. And the language of that, we believe, violates the separation of powers in the charter. So you should look at RCH 9-106.2, subsection A, where it talks about executive agencies are authorized to make expenditures under the executive operating budget ordinance, may proceed without other authority from the council to incur obligations or make expenditures for proper purposes to the extent the monies are available. In the new subsection C, subsection 1, you say that these provisional funds are for maintaining government operations at existing levels. And those operations at existing level are the authority of the executive branch.
Right here.
And when you take all of these provisional funds, which already were at very small margins due to the revenue stream that was available to the city and county this coming fiscal year, you have put us in a position where we will be coming back to the council for essential existing government operations via resolution process.
Okay, so this is what that means. Okay, so you look at all these numbers here, right? So as I understand it, this is all money that's controlled by Blangiardi, right? All this money. So what they're doing is that they're taking these funds and they're moving it, which Mike Formby just said is under control of the executive, Blangiardi, the mayor, and they're moving it into this provisional fund. Okay, and so what are they being left with here? They're being left with maybe like $15,000 compared to some quick math. 10, is that 45, 55? Yeah.
And that is unacceptable to the administration. It basically interferes. It is less transparent, not more transparent, whereas the provisional accounts used to be organized according to subject matter. For example, the provisional account for salary adjustments, now it's in one omnibus $41 million account with no subcategories. That is less transparent for the public, and we oppose less transparency. So we respectfully ask that the council reconsider this large omnibus $41 million provisional. Judgments and losses do not belong in this account. Disaster, emergency preparedness and recovery do not belong in this account. It will hamper our operations and it can be easily restructured in a way that preserves transparency and preserves the ability of the administration to operate government as is our authority under charter.
Okay, so what he's saying is that if you put all this money in the city council, you need to put up a resolution anytime you want to access any of this money. So currently, the executive has power over all this money, and they can use it not really like as they please, but use it what it's supposed to be for. And it's, basically with the mayor's permission, as far as I understand, with the mayor's permission, they can use that money. But it's basically pulling all this money that used to be under control of the mayor, putting it under the control of the city council, except once it's in there, you need a piece of paper to be passed every single time you want to use that money.
So I will allow Andy Kawano as the director of BFS to get more specific about it. And we also have Corporation Counsel here today, and they can advise you in executive session as to the concerns we have with the language that you have proposed and the impact that it will have on the administration. We want to avoid any type of veto. We had that last session. We don't want it this session. It is unproductive. So we're hoping by working closely with council on the CD2 and, if necessary, in FD1, we can get to a place that we can function best. We agree with the premises that you stated in your opening statement, Budget Chair, but I think this is not the way to do it. So with that, I'll defer to Director Andy Kawano.
Thank you, Managing Director Furby. Aloha, good morning, Director Kawano.
Good morning, Budget Chair Okimoto, Council Chair Waters, Honorable Council Members, Andy Kawano, Director of Budget and Fiscal Services. When we started this process early in March with the submittal of the mayor's budget, we submitted an already constrained budget. We talked about the fact that we needed to understand the fact that affordability was a big concern.
Which they've done nothing for, by the way.
And as I mentioned, as we went through
Okay, that's not true. They're going to give a $300 home exemption.
the department briefings, we actually reduced salaries across departments based on what lapses happened in prior years. We looked at the trend. We looked at vacancy trends, in terms of filling positions, as you mentioned, because that's always important to us to be as proactive as possible to fill positions. We looked on a department-by-department basis, retirements and the need for large vacation payouts. Those were all factored in when we determined about $30 million of salaries that were reallocated to help us balance the mayor's budget. With regard to the salaries, we also removed and reallocated fringes tied to the salaries, another $20 million. So we used $50 million of salaries and fringes to help balance the budget. Current expenses were challenged on a department-by-department basis. It started with our budget analysts that are assigned to the various city departments who provide services. The MD reviewed the proposed budget amounts in late November and December, and we went through another cycle of review, filtering, justification to come up with our current expense budget. So we already, and the same thing happened with equipment requested by departments that have to be in the operating budget. So the budgets were already constrained. In addition to what our managing director covered with regard to the provisional, we noticed that in the CD2 worksheet, there were reductions, beyond CD1 to salaries and current expenses and to some extent equipment to fund council ads. That's all fine to shuffle money around.
Fund council ads.
But the council ads, and we respect why ads were put in place, also restricts how the monies can be used. So we can't necessarily transfer monies if something came up. We have another storm, let's say, and we need to cover overtime. What we would have to do, as MD mentioned, is essentially go in front of council, submit a resolution, validate the resolution, and go through at least one reading to get it passed. Imagine if a week in advance, which is common, we become aware of a tsunami that's coming, that's going to hit the island. Right now, as Managing Director mentioned, we don't have anything in our provision for disaster preparedness and recovery, so we'd have to go through a resolution process. We're not going to make it. We won't be able to prepare. It's going to interfere with government operations.
Okay, so did you catch that? So, Director of Budget Fiscal Services is saying that anytime they want to access funds, if they don't have that money to use it for things like disaster preparedness, they'll have to draft a piece of paper, present it to City Council, or have to pass at least one reading before they can do anything.
So we're very concerned, and I think it's gone a little too far. BFS, myself, and all of the departments feel that this is overreach into operations of the city. that will not have a good impact. We're going to create more work, not just for us, for all of you. We're going to have more meetings. There are going to be more resolutions for you to review. We just don't think it's a good thing to do. And as the MD mentioned, and as our department heads will provide to you as you allow them to testify today, there is a very large concern about interfering with our work. Getting back to that, as MD mentioned, there is a separation of powers issue, and we have Corporation Counsel here. And if you'd like to talk more about it, so you're well informed as we go through the department sections, please call an executive session so Counsel can share their research with you, because we're very concerned.
That sounds sort of like we need to tell you how much we think this is illegal. That's what it sounds like. Please, let's go to executive session where there will be no cameras so we can get our lawyers to explain to you how illegal this is.
With that, I'll take questions.
Thank you, Director Kawano. Members, before we continue with the administration, I actually would like to take some testimony, and then we'll return back to the administration, and then we can turn it over to the members for questions. So first, we'll proceed with. I have a remote testifier who's been waiting. I believe we have from the department, our DBET department, Director James Kunane Tokioka, waiting online.
Okay, I'm going to skip these testimonies because I will cover them at a later time. They are relevant to OER and they're cutting, and that is something I will cover separately. Let's see, how do you unmute? There we go.
Hunter Hei Villain.
If any amount would be appropriate and just how that would support both the farmers and then the broader economy.
I think.
The mic is on. Please state your name for the.
Look at how many people are coming out to testify for OER. Again, I'll cover this later. More testimony.
Immigration Legal Services to our county residents.
At this time, on Bill 22. Okay. Seeing no further testifiers.
Okay, if you're wondering why they testified just now instead of what they were just talking about, it's because Bill 22 is long AF. Okay, look at this. Look at this bill. Look at all this stuff in here. Look at it. It is insane. This is why it took 6 hours to get through. This is why that when I got there and they started on Bill 22, they didn't get through it until maybe like 30 minutes after I left or something. It's because there's all this stuff in here.
Logged on remotely who would like to testify at this time on Bill 22. Okay. Seeing no further testifiers. Is that it? No. Okay. Okay. Members will now turn. Okay. We'll now begin review of the operating budget on page 1, General Government.
Okay, operating budget. What the did you say?
We'll now begin review of the operating budget on page 1, General Government.
Page 1, General Government, operating budget. Where's the operating? Executive operating budget. No, this is the council communication. Okay, Control F. Operating budget. Okay, let's see if we can follow along.
Starting with the Managing Director's Office. I'd like to welcome again. Oh, I see Deputy Director here with us. Good morning, Krishna.
Good morning, Budget Chair Kamado. Good morning, Council Chair, Council Vice Chair, and Council Members. Krishna Jara.
Okay, so what is that it? Okay, so all that fuss about how awful all that stuff is. Okay, I don't even know where to start with this. Okay, so if that sounded dramatic to you, it is because it is. So the way that Civil Beat is portraying all of this is that they are creating a slush fund, right? So this visual pretty much summarizes everything. Is that there is a fund that the administration can use, and City Council wants to introduce a, I don't know what to call it, amendment, right, for like a subsection 3 or something, where all this money comes under control under the umbrella of City Council. All right. See, debate over whether department expenses are worthwhile is usually settled during an annual budget process. With a new provision, Dos Santos Tam said, departments would be more incentivized to cater to the 9 council members throughout the year to secure needed money rather than carrying out the administration's own projects. If this is going to be a fund that the council designs to give out based on whether we like a certain expenditure or not, he said in an interview, it seems very slushy. Okay, so I don't remember him saying this, and it's because he said it in an interview later on, I guess. hmm See, so Colin Moore basically says that, and you can read this if you want. I suggest that you do. It's quite good and important that if you put this money under the power of city council, it looks like city council is doing stuff. Because it's like, oh, we passed this thing to do this. We passed this thing to address emergency. Because you basically took all that money away from the mayor. All right, listen to this. If you think of who is ultimately the winner of this, he said, it seems like it's the council chair. Waters did not respond for requests for comment about the shifting budget chairs. In a way, Moore said, the provisions control over emergency response money makes for good optics when situations such as the devastating Kona low storms. Quote, if this fund makes it look like the council is more directly involved or coming to the rescue of the administration, he said, that's a good look for them. Okay, what did Matt Wire say? Okay, I don't see a quote from him here, but let's see. Waters and Okimoto said the proposed provision could be a temporary measure for no more than a few years to emphasize that its mission is to ensure more oversight. This fund is really designed for us to be more transparent, Okimoto said. It really is, and I wouldn't be saying that if I didn't believe this. Okay, stop the cat. Let's see. Now, there is an important part here. Here we go. Budget Director Andy Kawano said this information is already public through quarterly reports made to the council. So they already, quote, so they have all of that information ready already, he said. Waters shot back in a written statement to Civil Beat. He said the proposed provisional account means members of the public can testify upfront on decisions about funding transfers. Quote, the current reporting structure is largely after the fact, Waters said. It tells people and the council what happened once the decision has already been made. He also stressed that the new pot of money would be a provisional account, which is legally different from a fund when it comes to the city's budget. Okay, so yeah, you heard all that. Director of BFS is saying that the executive, when they spend money, there's a report that says what everything was spent for. Waters' beef is that, oh, they only tell us what it's been used for after it's been used. Yeah, but you need to have some money in order to quickly respond to things. This is what people complain about when they say like, oh, all the bureaucracy, right? If you need permission every time you spend any amount of money, then you're just going to slow things down. And in an emergency, you need to be able to respond quickly. So, yeah, I don't even know what to say about this other than, I mean, personally, I view it as a power grab, right? And hey, I'm not the political science professor at UH, right? Colin Moore is, all right? And he's saying that if you think about ultimately who is the winner in this, it seems like it's a council chair.